We talk a lot about community and togetherness, but what does that really mean? What are we actually trying to build? Is it a group where everyone has to think and act exactly the same? Or is it something way more interesting and a whole lot more powerful? In this explainer, we're going to break down the huge difference between forcing everyone to be the same and building something that's truly united.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with a pretty surprising idea from child psychology. Then, we'll see how that one little concept, if left unchecked, can actually poison a whole community. From there, we'll explore a much better way, a more powerful ideal. And finally, we'll look at a real-world blueprint for putting it all into practice.
All right, so to really get how we build healthy communities, we've got to rewind the clock. Way back. Our journey actually starts with a core concept from our own childhoods, one that shapes pretty much everything that comes after: egocentrism.
Now, I know it sounds like a loaded question, right? But honestly, for every single one of us, there is a time where the answer was a loud and clear yes. And here's the thing, it's not some kind of character flaw. It's actually a totally normal and really important stage in our development.
The famous psychologist Jean Piaget actually gave this a name: ego-centrism. And what he meant was, for a little kid, their point of view isn't just one way of seeing things, it is the only way. Their own self is the absolute, unquestioned center of the entire universe. And this worldview has some pretty wild implications when you think about it. A child just assumes that if something is good for them, well, it must be good for everybody. Their thoughts aren't just opinions, they're the truth. And in the most literal sense, if they can't see it, it's not there. If they close their eyes, the world might as well just stop.
And then it happens. The crisis. That huge, often really jarring moment when you realize you are not the center of the universe after all. You're just one person among billions, a single tiny piece in a puzzle so gigantic it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. And how we deal with that shock? Well, that's one of the biggest turning points of our entire lives.
So when we hit this crisis, we're at a fork in the road, and how we respond really determines if we grow up or just get stuck. The first path, that's maturity. We adjust our thinking, we embrace that bigger picture, and we start to find our unique place inside of it all. But the second path is immaturity. That's where we refuse to let go, we cling to ourselves as the center, and that road just leads to endless conflict and never really being satisfied. So what happens when people take that second path? When they never really outgrow that childhood egocentrism, the fallout is massive. It doesn't just stay a personal issue, it scales up. And it starts to poison our communities, creating this intense pressure for everyone to be the same.
This is what we call uniformity, and you can think of it as egocentrism on a group level. It's this deep-seated need to make everyone think, act, and believe the same way, all based on one person's or one group's rigid ideas. At its core, it's an ideology that is just terrified of difference.
The theologian Jean Piaget just captured this perfectly. He warned that this drive to make everyone the same is a huge danger. Because when we chase after it, we're forced to erase the very thing that makes us who we are, our uniqueness.
This is such a brilliant way to see the difference. On one hand, you've got the school uniforms from Imperial Japan. The whole point there was uniformity, to crush individuality, to enforce control, and the result was oppression. But then, think about a sports team's uniform. The goal there is completely different. It's about unity, bringing a bunch of different players together for a common goal. The result? Harmony, and if they're lucky, a shared victory.
Okay, so if demanding that everyone be the same is so destructive, what's the answer? Well, the alternative is something so much more beautiful, so much more powerful. It's this idea of finding unity through our diversity, not in spite of it.
And to really get our heads around this, we're given this absolutely perfect metaphor: the mosaic.
I mean, just think about what makes a mosaic so incredible. It's not because all the little tiles are the same, right? It's because they're all different. You have all these pieces, different colors, different shapes, different sizes. Each one is totally unique. But when you put them all together, they create one single, breathtaking image that no individual piece could ever have made on its own.
That right there, that's the essence of harmony. Harmony isn't the sound of everyone singing the exact same note. That's just a drone. It's boring. Real harmony is that beautiful, complex, rich sound that only happens when different notes come together in just the right way.
And this leads us to the most important point of all, a kind of paradox about community. You absolutely cannot have real unity without diversity. The second you start demanding that everyone be the same, you've already destroyed any chance you had of finding the real thing.
All right, so the mosaic is a beautiful idea. It sounds great, but how do we actually do that? How do we apply that in the real world? Let's check out a practical model for how a community can actually live this out.
The source gives us a powerful model, using a theological example from the Apostle Paul. He described the early Christian church not as some rigid, top-down organization, but as a living, breathing body. And its goal was to be built up by the unique gifts of all its different people. So in this body metaphor, the community is made up of all these diverse members. Some are teachers, some are leaders, others are encouragers. Every single part has a unique, vital job to do. I mean, a hand can't do what an eye does, right? They're totally different. But they're all united by a shared purpose, and they're designed to work together in harmony.
And this actually gives us a really clear 5-step path for building a better community. First, we have to consciously move past our own egocentrism. Second, we have to stop demanding that everyone else be just like us. Third, we have to actually honor what makes each person unique. Fourth, we find that shared purpose to rally around. And finally, step 5, we get to work together to build something beautiful.
Paul even uses another great metaphor, a building. Each stone is different. It has its own shape, its own size. But an expert builder fits them all together perfectly to create a structure that's way stronger and more beautiful than any single stone could ever be. We are built together, not shoved into the same mold.
So, this all leaves us with a really important question for our own lives. In our families, in our jobs, in our communities, what are we actually building? Are we making room for every unique color and shape, trying to create a vibrant mosaic? Or are we just demanding that everyone get painted over with the same single color? The choice, really, is ours.